Hello and welcome to the Back Nine Report. My name is Carlos Torres, and every week, Fred Altvater and I check in on the world of golf to bring you the latest news, insights, analysis, interviews, recaps, previews. Hey, we cover anything and everything golf. In other words, if it happened in golf, we have it for you. But today, this week, we're wearing green. Well, Kieran Clark, who will bring and didn't get the memo. I sent the email. He didn't get it. But anyway, special event, special edition. The Masters celebrates the best major in golf, and we have to bring in the reinforcement with the European golf guru, Kieran Clark, who joins us every time for a major event. But also, 10 years ago, we started a Masters Week. So we're going to start our 10th year for the Back Nine Report right now. And who better to be with us than our friend and colleague, Kieran Clark. Kieran, how are you today?
Well, I'm very well, Carlos, and obviously congratulations on 10 years of the Back Nine Report, and obviously the best week of the year for golf in terms of celebrating that year. That anniversary is obviously the Masters, which is obviously so much of an event about tradition and familiarity and iconography. We recognize the same sites every single year, and we kind of enjoy the same moments every year, and we kind of relate back to that. So to have the 10th anniversary of the show is perfect for that, because my own personal Masters tradition is to preview it with yourself, Carlos and Fred, and that is always enjoyable. And I'm looking forward to this one in particular because it's a fascinating week ahead, very difficult tournament to call, so many players in contention. And shall I mention him right now? There's a certain 5-time champion who it looks like, has made the most incredible comeback. So there's so much to discuss, and I can't wait to go.
Can't wait to talk about it, but we'll talk about it pretty soon. Hey, Fred, 10 years, man. I saw, and Fred, first of all, congratulations on your anniversary, 23 years. I've been 25 with mine. And there was something that you said there. I read it. You still don't know how she puts up with you. How can you put up with me, for 10 years? How is this going on?
This is, we laugh about this all the time, but this is like a marriage. You finish my sentences. I know exactly what you're going to talk about. You know exactly what I'm going to talk about. We don't talk to each other between the shows. Maybe we text a little bit while the tournament's going on or something like that. But when it comes time to do the show, we just kind of know what each one's going to talk about, and it all just flows. So 10 years doing this. We were actually traveling. We were in Charleston, staying in an Airbnb in the old part. Beautiful old house. And I was sitting on the edge of the bed, had my computer up on the dresser and the headphones on. And we did the first show that night, actually. And so it's been great, Carlos. I love doing this with you, Kieran. So much fun when you come on the show. And guys, I got started. I'm in the Masters mood, the Augusta National. I'm dreaming of that early. I'm kicking myself. I should be down there, but we didn't go this year. Watched the ANWA on Saturday. That was fantastic. Watched the dry chip putt yesterday with the kids. Fantastic stuff. Can't wait to talk about it some more tonight.
Well, can I just say, Carlos, quickly, just to interject. Fred, you mentioned there that you and Carlos, it's like a marriage. Where does that put me? Am I the mistress? Am I the secret boyfriend? What am I?
It's a menage a trois. It's a menage a trois.
That's why I came with a beard to fit in with that. That's
a protest, or just to,
We better leave it right there.
Yeah, move swiftly on from that point.
All right, so let's get started. It's Masters Week, an event like any other, and there is this, like you mentioned, a former 5-time champion whose status is, I don't know if we should say it in the air, but he says, I'm going to be a game time decision. So on Thursday is when we're going to learn if he's going to play. And with all the focus on Tiger's surgically repaired leg, I asked, hey, what about his back? I'm kidding. Anyway, the thing is, everybody's wondering, is he going to play? Let me tell you, to me, Kieran, that game time decision, Fred, to me, that game time decision means unless something happened before Thursday, I'm playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's going to have a presser tomorrow, I think at 5 p.m. tomorrow, where he's supposed to announce go or no go. And he was there last week, practiced a little bit. He came in on Sunday, played yesterday afternoon, was out practicing today. Some little videos, clips have come up of him swinging, and some people talking about the full turn that he's making and the strong swings he's making. So the only question, guys, to me is if he can walk up and down those hills for 2 days, and if he makes the cut for 4 days. That's people don't realize how hilly it is there. It's a really, really tough walk. And the other thing is that if you're golfing, there's a lot of side hill, uphill, downhill, all kinds of different lies. There's very few flat lies there to hit shots off of. So you're constantly putting a lot of torque, not only on your back, but on your legs and on those knees and on his ankle, whatever, to hit these shots. So that's a question to me. I can't wait to see if he tees it up on Thursday, how he gets along. And when I really want to start watching is around about 13, 14, and 15, because that's when the wear and tear and the fatigue starts setting in.
How about that, Kieran? I mean, there's a lot of buzz. Everybody's just talking about Tiger. Will he play? Even about his shoe choice, that he was wearing FootJoy and not Nike. He's like, is that because he's looking for something now to be more comfortable? How about this? It's taking everybody by storm right now.
It certainly is, and I'm sure we'll get some answers to that from the aforementioned press conference on Tuesday. But it's an extraordinary spectacle seeing Tiger back in this manner. And the anticipation, people literally tracking his plane last week when he went up to Augusta, play with Justin Thomas, and of course his son Charlie, and then going back up on Sunday. He played a practice round today. Fred Couples was there, and out in the huge galleries on a Monday afternoon, just huge crowds watching, unlike anything you've ever seen for a practice round. And I mean, he looks good. He seems to be enjoying himself. He is walking a little bit gingerly, as I think you would expect after what happened 14 months ago. The fact we're having this conversation is just ridiculous from where he was, a year ago to now. Had you told me 6 months ago we'd been in this scenario, I wouldn't have believed it. But he is a once in a lifetime athlete, individual, human being, and he's capable of this sort of thing. And the thing is, he wouldn't be here if he didn't think he could play well. And he obviously believes he can go and hit the shots. We saw him play in December at the parent-child championship with his son Charlie, and he hit some great shots. Looked good. Obviously, used a cart to get around the golf course. The big question, as Fred touched on, was the physicality of it. Could he maintain potentially 4 rounds of golf on this big undulating golf course? And that remains probably an answer. The question he hasn't yet answered for himself, and that's the only real caveat to this whole scenario. But the reality is, I think if he gets through the practice round on Monday unscathed, and I think he's due to play again on Wednesday. There's bad weather forecast on Tuesday, so not much golf being played on Tuesday. Wednesday, I think he's going to play 9 holes with Fred Couples again. That's what Fred touched on today, or Fred Couples, that is, mentioned that today. So if he gets through that unscathed, I fully expect him to play on Thursday. Of course, the Masters is an invitational event, so there's no alternates. He's not keeping someone out of the field. He can make that decision at the last minute. It's a very unique event in that respect. But I think he's going to play, and I think it's a remarkable story. We'll talk about how well he can play. What's the realistic ambition? Who knows? But I tell you what's good, though. I think Tiger Woods being here and the attention he's had is unprecedented. And I think that's great news for the other guys, because they're coming in here, all of them, under the radar. And on a major week, on a Masters week, I think that's quite a good thing for all the other contenders. So Tiger coming here, taking the spotlight, I think benefits, first of all, the tournament, benefits the game, but I also think it benefits the other leading players in the field this week.
Yeah, I really don't know what else is there to say other than this. I mean, a year ago, many were wondering whether Tiger Woods would walk again. Now he may play this year's Masters. This is obviously the top storyline for this year's tournament, and I would say deservedly so, which begs me to ask this next question, and it's a segue to what we're going to be talking about the rest of the show is, then Kieran, what is the second best storyline in the Masters this year?
the second best storyline.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. Because Tiger's taken the dominance over everyone else. I suppose, I actually think that the second best storyline is just the Masters itself. I think talk about it every spring, coming into April, it's the kind of the signal of the golf season, particularly for those of you who live in the Northeast or Midwest in the US, and indeed in the UK where I live. It is kind of the signal of the beginning of the golf season. And you have that iconography of the golf course, how familiar it is. We've all grown up with it. We all recognize the shots and the holes. And in that respect, the Masters and Augusta National, it is itself a storyline. And that's perhaps unique to all the majors, I would suggest. Maybe the Open Championship when it goes to St. Andrews, or the US Open at Pebble Beach has that element to it as well. But I think generally speaking, the Masters itself, with that Amen corner, the green jacket, the unique limited field, as I mentioned earlier, invitational event where basically you have a field that's just the absolute elite players and the guys who have basically no chance to win. So that almost every year guarantees a really exciting leaderboard and a very strong finish. So the Masters itself is almost independent from all the other storylines. It stands alone in that respect. But Tiger obviously is the main storyline. In terms of a second best storyline, off the top of my head right now, I mean, I come back to, for me, what I always look out for every year in the Masters, and we all look out for, is can Rory McIlroy complete the career Grand Slam? And right now, he's probably more under the radar than he's ever been, and there's probably good reason for that. But that's always a story for me. But Tiger right now is taking the spotlight, the pressure off the rest of them. And as I say, I think that in itself could benefit all the other guys in the field. So it's the Masters. Obviously, we always look forward to every April, every spring. But I think with this whole Tiger scenario, yes, people will complain about it and say, "Oh, he's not even, will he even contend? Can he win?" The reality is, I 100% believes he can win. And not saying he will win or realistically can win, but I think he's going to play well when he does play. And I think that's going to be a big story. But the Masters itself, Carlos, it itself is always a storyline, always a major highlight of the year. And I'm sure it's going to be once again this week.
How about you, Fred? What do you think it would be the second best?
Well, for me, coming in, of course, as we established, Tiger is number one. But the second thing, Hideki had to withdraw last week with a neck injury, and he's a defending champion coming in here. And this is a great, great course for him. He knows it. He's got confidence coming off the win last year. So is Hideki going to play? Well, he practiced today. So, maybe he was able to get some work done, some physical therapy. And so maybe he's going to be okay and it won't be an issue. The other big thing for me being an Ohio guy is that, and Jack Nicklaus means so much to the Masters with 6 wins not playing in the par 3. And then the other thing, of course, is Tom Watson joining Player and Nicklaus as the honorary starters. So to me, those are probably the major stories coming in, Carlos.
So let's talk a little bit about Hilaki Matsuyama. You mentioned him. He's the defending champion, but his build up to his title defense has been far from ideal. I mean, he's 30 years old and he withdrew midway through his second round at the Valero Texas Open on Friday, citing a neck injury. This was on top of the back issues that he has battled this year, back issues that led to a withdrawal at the Players' Championship in March and caused him to skip the WGC match play. So that back ailment specifically has hindered him from practicing to his standards. So what can we expect from his title defense? Is he going to be back to back, or do we see him missing the cut, Frank?
Well, it's been pretty iffy with him as you documented there. So I don't know that I don't think I'd put any money down on him for sure if I were a betting guy. But if Hideki can play and if he's in the field, he will be competitive because this is a good golf course for him. He hits it long, he's accurate enough, and he's a great iron player. And this, as we know, this golf course demands great iron play to make sure you get the ball in the right place on these greens so that you can putt. And if he can play, I think he'll do well. But the question is, Carlos, and we just don't know that yet. We're doing this on Monday of Masters Week. And like I said, he practiced today, but we just don't know what's going to happen come Thursday.
Kieran, prior to the health setback, Hideki was enjoying a strong start to the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fall win at the Zozo Championship, then hit that victory in January at the Sony Open. So everything looked like he was starting to peak at the right time. What do you think about this for him right now?
I think it's always a challenge to come in here as defending champion. When we go back, the last successful defense was Tiger 20 years ago. And that shows you how difficult it is. You come back to the same golf course. So you think surely it's an easier event to defend than any other major. But that hasn't actually been the case. And I think that's because of the uniqueness of it. Where you have the champions dinner, you have the expectation, you have the media attention, you have all of the memories flooding back to you from the previous year that I would imagine can be somewhat overwhelming. Again, the Masters is unique in that sense as a major championship where you're going back to that same venue year in, year out. And Hideki obviously had that great start to the year, was playing extremely well, and you would have had him in your top 5 favourites guaranteed just a few weeks ago. Obviously, the question mark is with the injury. Hopefully, the withdrawing in the Texas Open was more of a precautionary thing just to make sure he was okay for this week. I expect he will play. And I think he'll play well. I mean, I think Fred touched on it there. I think it's a great golf course for him. The iron play is just paramount to success around here. It's probably the most important stat, really. You look at the last 15, 20 Masters champions, always been up there in terms of iron play, ball striking, approach play, strokes gained, tee to green, whatever it might be, the stat you're looking at, it tends to point to that as being the most important stat. And Matsuyama is one of the very best iron players in the world. So I think it's a tall order to defend his title because of the history suggests so. But I think for him, a healthy and competitive week will be satisfactory. And I think for him going forward, the best weeks of his year might actually come in the other majors this season. If he's going to be fit and going forward, I think we get towards the PGA, the US Open, the Open, I think we'll see Matsuyama be more of a contender in those than what we will see at the Masters this week.
And Kieran, golf legend Jack Nicklaus isn't going to be playing the par 3 contest before the Masters this week. Usually that contest is held on Wednesday before the main event gets going. And the field usually consists of some Masters participants and former champions. Nicklaus has done this contest numerous times, but has finally decided that he can't play anymore. The golf world is sad, but also understands why Jack has decided not to play this contest. So how about that?
Yeah, I think there's two things here. First of all, it's great to see the par 3 contest back after 3 years now. They didn't hold it in November 2020 in the fall Masters, and they didn't have it last year either. Obviously, with the COVID restrictions and the limited crowd they've had, but this year actually, as in our storyline, actually, we're having full galleries again. The full complement of Masters patrons are back at Augusta this week after a limited crowd last year, and obviously no crowd the year before that. So that'll be great to see. The par 3 is back this year, but yeah, you touched on there, Jack Nicklaus, 6-time Masters champion, just obviously an amazing legacy at Augusta National. He won't be participating this year, and it's sad. I mean, it's just a reminder of the passage of time and things move on. And Jack is 82 years old, and he's not the most physically sprightly of 82-year-olds. You compare him to Gary Player, who obviously is a remarkable, just a specimen and remarkable individual. Jack isn't that same physical shape, and he's an extremely proud man, and rightly so. And he wouldn't want to embarrass himself playing the par 3 course or struggling to walk around it. Again, much like the main course, it is up and down. There are hills, elevated tees, downhill walks, and I think Jack probably finds it a little bit difficult where he can't use a cart around that little course, and he wouldn't want to embarrass himself. And I don't think people want to see that either. We want to see Jack how he used to be, and that's not going to happen. But we'll still see him on Thursday morning on the first tee hitting his honorary drive, and I think that's still a wonderful moment, and it's a great way to celebrate what he has brought to Augusta National. As I say, an amazing legacy, unsurpassed, 6-time champion. But again, as we talk about, Father Time remains undefeated. Jack Nicklaus overcame all the great players and all the great golf courses, but Not even the great Golden Bear can overcome Father Time. But it'll be great to see him there on Thursday. But obviously, a bittersweet not to have him there at the par 3.
What do you think, Fred?
I have very little add from what Kieran just said. I ditto all that stuff, and the fact that Jack is a proud guy, and he did beat everybody all the way along, and he still wants to maintain that image. He doesn't want to go out there and stumble around and look like an old guy just hanging in there. And so this is the right decision, I'm sure. The last couple of years, whenever I've been around where Jack is, he is sitting down or on a golf cart. He's not standing very long. His hips just will not allow it. And even to walk 9 holes, you have to walk downhill from the clubhouse down into the valley and around the lakes and around the greens there and stuff, and then walk clear back up the hill. It would probably be too much, just more than he can handle at this point. And it's just the way it is, guys.
Fred, in exactly 36 years of the official world golf ranking, Scotty Schaffler became the 25th player to reach #1 and the 9th player from the US and 6th youngest. I mean, we can say he's maybe the hottest. He's definitely the hottest player in the planet. I'm not willing to say he's the best, but definitely the hottest. He moved to the top of the official world golf ranking with an emphatic victory at the 2022 WGC Technologies match play. His 3rd title in last 5 starts, 6 weeks after his first PGA Tour. It's been victory. It's been skyrocketing. So I ask you this. I mean, so when we look past the Rory McIlroys, the John Rams, look past the Brooke Koepkas, there is a guy standing right here in front of us that has the potential to be what your guy, Colin Morikawa, was last year, come October of this year.
Yeah, if you'd have told me Scotty Schaffler was going to get to be #1 in the world this fast, I would have. There's no way in the world I would have ever put any money on that. He has been a complete surprise. Well, we knew he was a great player. He had a great Ryder Cup, and we all knew in the last year, you could see it building. He's just getting better and better. A lot of top 10 finishes, a lot of cuts made. Really a strong player. But to have now, to go from no wins to 3 wins in like 2 months, that's pretty strong. And then one of those being a WGC at the match play, where he took down some pretty big names as he came up through there. So kudos to him getting to be #1. I don't think he will probably be #1 after this week, but we'll see. And I don't, he's playing fantastic. He's on a tremendous roll, right? But I just don't see him winning this week. I think he's come awful far, awful fast. He's paid his dues. He's worked hard. He's got a great caddy. I talked about that last week. He's got his caddy is one of the best out there and is keeping him on track and doing what he needs to do. So he does have that in his corner, and maybe that could be the edge that will get him through to Sunday. If I were picking, he's not my pick to win, but I think he could be top 10 or top 15.
Kieran, I mean, this is a guy that routinely found himself in the top 20, top 10 in the leaderboards. And I think after this, just not counting on him will be something not wise to do. What you think about Scotty Schaffler? I mean, he has the game. He has definitely the mental attitude and the confidence going in. Maybe what we know about the Masters is that experience in this golf course and in this tournament is what really gets you to win. So would he be able, what do you think about Scotty Schaffler?
I think he can certainly win the Masters. Obviously, it's been a remarkable journey to get to #1 very quickly, but of course, it's not like he wasn't a contender before he actually won. It took him a while to get that first win. He was, a lot of top 5 finishes over the past couple of years, building up to this, breakthrough run that he's had this year. And he's finished 19th and 18th in his 2 previous Masters appearances, which is, very, very solid. And that points to someone who's going to get better and better as time goes on. He's obviously still a very young man and still in the infancy of his career. But of course, he has that winning confidence behind him. I think Fred's right, though, in the sense that it's happened very quickly. There's a lot to kind of digest and consume. He almost seemed in disbelief that he was world #1. It happened so quickly. I think his wife was there, and she didn't believe it either when he won the match play. So it's one of those. It's been a lot to digest over the past couple of weeks. But again, we talk about how Tiger's taken that spotlight where we have Scotty Schaffler here as the world number one, and really he's not. No one's really talking about him, and I think that's beneficial. But it's interesting because actually being number one, haven't been too many who have actually won the Masters. I mean, Ian Woosnam did it back in '91. Fred Couples did it in '92, and obviously Tiger's done it. But other than that, world number ones haven't triumphed here or even done that well. Actually, major championships. Tiger is going to set the bar in that sense. So being top of the rankings doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to win. Doesn't suggest you're actually the best player for these majors. But I think Scheffler has the all-round game to be a contender. I think he will play well this week. I don't think he can be ruled out, certainly. But I agree with Fred in the sense of I think a lot's happened very quickly, and maybe winning the Masters at this moment is maybe a step too far. Maybe in the future, but perhaps not this year.
All right, so let's talk about somebody that has not won here either, and is looking for the career Grand Slam, and that is Rory McIlroy. Has not won a major since that USPGA of 2014, and we don't have anybody talking a lot about him, maybe because of this last 7 times he hasn't done pretty much anything to try to win it, right? And what we have seen him in this past 7 years is he's doing like completely the opposite of what Tiger used to do in the majors, right? Tiger would use that first round to feel out his game, the golf course, and how this was going to play out for him, because the majors are different, right? With Rory, he gets in such a hole, maybe he's mentally blocked starting, and he's getting in a hole he can't get out. How you think of Kieran about his chances of winning the Masters?
Well, I think I mentioned it earlier. I think expectations are probably as low as they have ever been for Rory at the Masters. He's always one of the favourites, and everyone's bigging him up. Will this be the year he finally gets that green jacket and completes the full set of majors? And no one's really talking about him in those terms this year. And on one hand, that might be a positive thing because there's less expectations, less pressure. You can just kind of free will it and go through the motions, really. But it also reflects that his game probably isn't there right now. He had an encouraging form, end of last year. He obviously won the CJ Cup with some very good performances, but he hasn't looked right really since he basically threw away the Dubai Desert Classic a few months ago, where he had the chance to win there. He dumped his, fell away the back nine, dumped his second shot on the 18th into the water, missed out in the playoff, and Hovland obviously beat Richard Bland in that playoff. Rory hasn't looked right since then. Missed a cut in Texas the weekend there. So it's a real question mark around him. If he was to win the green jacket, it would be unexpected. I think it's fair to say this week. But he's come into this Masters as the favourite, as the hot favourite, as the guy that's in form, as number one, as a guy that's got majors behind him. This time he's coming in a completely different scenario as almost an outsider. And who knows, that might suit him. But I think that fact suggests that his game, it's a bit of a leap to see him go from where he's been the last few weeks to be the Masters champion. It could happen. I think it'd be an amazing story if it did happen. But I just don't think it will this week.
What do you think about Rory's chances, Fred?
Well, he's certainly one of the most intriguing figures to watch during the week. I always love to watch Rory play. And you would think with hitting those high, big draws that he loves to hit, he should be a natural at this place. He's a great iron player, one of the best iron players of anybody. You'd think that he could do well here. His putting, especially over the last couple of years, has been a little questionable. I've seen him make some putts over the last couple of years that were they were just absolutely terrible. And I'm talking about short putts. I'm talking like 2 and 3 and 4 footers. And that just is a matter of concentration, of focus, that your mind just is not there 100% of the time. And I think that might be the case with Rory. It's what it seems to me. But guys, in the last 8 Masters, Rory has finished inside the top 10 6 times in the last 8 Masters. It's the only it's the only major he needs to complete the career Grand Slam. You know, I feel for him. I hope this is the year he can get it done. But I don't know. We've just seen so many inconsistencies with him. Yeah, before COVID, guys, before 2020, Rory was the best guy on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what do you
Yep.
have? 8 top 10s or 3 wins and, you know, all those top 10s in a row. And then COVID hit, he's off for 2 or 3 months and he's never come back the same player. So, you know, Rory's got it. He's got it in there. He's still that guy. Okay. Can he pull it together for 4 rounds?
That's the question. And that's the question also for the next guy, for Jordan Spieth. I mean, he had that nice run, but then he had a couple of down years last year. Finally, he finished T3rd, even though he had a horrific putting stats all throughout the tournament. And he's a guy that we've been waiting to see if he can regain that Masters glory. He knows the course. He has the game for here. How about Jordan Spieth? He's been struggling really, really bad.
But he has, but he's continued to improve a little bit. And his biggest problem has been the driving. You know, I think he's one of these guys that felt like he had to get longer to stay competitive. He was pretty long, but not as long as a lot of these guys. And in trying to get longer, he's messed up his swing and his timing, and he still continues to put way too much pressure on his short game and his putting. He is an excellent iron player, And Augusta is the perfect place for him. You can pretty much hit it all over the lot there. There's only 2 holes, 13 and 15, where you can really get yourself in deep trouble off the tee. Pretty much all the rest of the golf course, you can hit it off the pine straw, under the trees, work something down near the green and still chip and putt. But there's just a couple holes that's not the case. So I think Jordan will do well here. He tends to, when he does get down, it's getting in his head a little bit now, and he does press more instead of just continuing to play. He obviously loves this place. He can slip into a different gear here. Like I say, the wayward drives don't maybe hurt quite as much. But, you know, if you go off recent past history for Jordan, you can't see him doing well here. But again, I can see Jordan being top 15, top 10, maybe he can 10. If he can get himself in position after Saturday night in you know, maybe only 2 or 3 shots back, then I'd say, yeah, he could put the bid in and go to work. But we'll see. I don't expect it, but it's possible.
How about you, Kieran? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Jordan Spieth's a real wild card this week, and it's very difficult to know which one's going to turn up. There seems to be 2 versions of Spieth. It's the one who hits the ball beautifully and then misses free foot putts everywhere, and the one who hits the ball everywhere and then holds putts from 50 feet all the time. Which one turns up, we're not too sure. In Texas the weekend there, he hit the ball wonderfully, especially in the last couple of rounds. Really tremendous stats of his irons, but just putted so badly, which he called the worst putting of his life. And he's way down on the PGA Tour's putting stats for this year, which seems amazing when you compare to how he was at his peak in 2015, 2016, when he was holding putts from all over the place. That's not the case now. And Fred touched on his driving issues. He can get around that here. And I think his iron play gives him a chance of playing extremely well at Augusta. And I think it always will. I think he's one of these players who, there are certain Masters specialists through the years. I mean, you compare him to his fellow Texan like Ben Crenshaw, who seemed to always contend the Masters throughout the 1980s into the early 90s, all the time, no matter what he was doing every other week of the year. Came to Augusta and he came alive. Spieth could be that guy this week. And we talk about the putting. It's been a real issue for Spieth for a while now, and it's been almost shocking how bad it's been. But you come to these greens at Augusta, which are obviously the most treacherous in the world, but maybe in a weird way that could be the antidote, where you can just get back to being feel, vision, creativity, just using that magic that, you know, don't have to worry about the stroke, don't think about the technique, just use your creativity. And that can bring out, you know, the great putter that he obviously has been in years gone by. So I think he's a real dangerous player, and I think he always will be for the next 10, 15 years in the Masters, where he's one of those guys that you can never completely discount. But I do just feel that there's too many wild shots still, and there's just too many mistakes on the greens for him to do enough to win. But like Fred said, will he play decently? Will he be in the appear on the leaderboard at some point during the week? Probably. Will he finish top 15, top 20 at worst? He probably will too. Will he win? I think it's unlikely. But I think Spieth at the Masters, anything can happen. There's a magic to that. And I think for that reason, he's always worth looking out for when we come down Magnolia Lane.
Well, Kieran, there's been an enigma called Bryson De Chambeau. Ever since the Saudis and all the stories, he's been in and out. Is he gonna go there? Is he not? He said, no, I'm staying here, but then we don't see him playing. Apparently he's injured from a hamstring. We haven't seen or heard much from Bryson De Chambeau, and with his struggles, and especially in this kind of course, which really doesn't set up with him. What's wrong with him? Do you see him winning? What are his chances? What's happening with Bryson De Chambeau?
Well, it's been a very ugly few months for Bryson. Obviously, these various recurring injuries. He said today in his press conference that he's more or less defied doctors' orders to actually play this week because it's the Masters he's going to play. He's only 80% fit, according to him. And he hasn't played particularly well either recently. I mean, we go back to more or less since the Florida Swing last year when he obviously had that great run, won the Arnold Palmer, had a great run at the Players. Since then, he hasn't done very much. And he seems a little unsure of where he's at, I think, both on and off the golf course. I think physically, obviously, there's issues there. I think the deal with the Saudi Golf League and all the controversy around that, I think that has had an impact as well. He needs to recapture his identity as a golfer and as probably as a person as well. Who is he? What is Bryson De Chambeau? Who does he want to be? What kind of player does he want to be? And I think he's in a real quandary right now where he's not sure of either of those things, and he's still reaching. He's still trying to find something. Obviously physically there's an issue there, but I think with his game, it's not there either. And I think this is a really tough place to find yourself. I think he still has a long way to go to do that again. I think when he came here a couple of years ago and said, oh, it's a par 67, all that stuff, I think he needs to get back to being the Bryson that we knew before, where he's less brash, he's less talkative, he's less boasting about what he can do and who he is. He just gets on with it more or less. And I think Bryson almost got caught up a little bit in trying to be a character, trying to be a personality, trying to be someone who's almost beyond the game. And I think it takes very broad shoulders and very thick skin to do that. And this isn't a criticism, but I don't think Bryson's that person. And I think he has to get back to the fundamentals of his game, but also himself, to get back to something like his best. And I think for that reason, it's a bit of a leap to imagine him playing that well this week.
I think you made great points there, Fred. That change, and we talked about this. I think he's starting to see the bad side of all that change that he provoked in him. We said this is something that has never been done before, and we think the only incognito was, will that catch up with him? Will physical problems will start? Well, now will he think about it and say, because he was a great player with a great arsenal before he started to focus on all this strength thing. So how about Bryson and his chances this week?
Well, first of all, Bryson at 80% is about like other golfers at 100%. So, he's still got plenty if he's only 80%. Now, if it's 80% of his health, then that's something else. It's going to be tough to make up that other 20% when you're out there walking and playing golf for 4 or 5 days. But I don't know, guys. His short game is not good enough to compete around Augusta National. His putting is okay at best, and his chipping and his short game. I've seen him hit just some unbelievable. The best time he had with a short game was when he won the U.S. Open at Winged Foot, when he was making these fantastic chips out of that deep rough. That was phenomenal stuff. But some of his chipping, other than that, has just been horrendous when I've seen some of his play. So that will not hold up around Augusta National. You've got to be spot on with your 110, 80, 60, 40-yard shots. You've got to be able to drop that ball right on within about 2 feet of where you want it, or you're going to end up some really nasty spots. So I just don't see Bryson De Chambeau doing that well this week. I saw him swing a little bit at the WGC match play a couple of weeks ago, and it was ugly. I mean, he was like taking a half swing. So that's not going to work at Augusta National whatsoever. Maybe he's playing coy, maybe he's coming in under the radar, but I don't think so. I just don't think his game's there right now.
I think Tiger finishes above him.
I would agree.
I agree with that. Yes,
I would
For
agree
sure.
with that. Yeah, if Tiger were played blindfolded, he'd end up ahead of.
Fred, let's talk about another player before we go to some picks. Justin Thomas.
Yes.
He's incredibly impressive this year. He has racked up 4 top 8 finishes in 6 stroke play starts. His worst performance was a T33 at the Players Championship. And you can maybe draw a line and say, well, he got an unlucky weather draw there. So how about JT? It seems like he's prime for finally winning his Masters. He has the game for it. How about JT?
Yeah, I'll give you a sneak peek here. He's one of my top guys this week. He's one of my favorites. So he is playing superbly this year. And more importantly, and I've mentioned this before, he's playing at a very high level. And I think he's getting this. He's playing so much with Tiger, but he's working the ball right to left. He's working the ball left to right. He's hitting it low when he needs to. He's hitting it high when he needs. His short game is spot on as always. His putting, maybe he hasn't made quite the putts that you would normally see him make. But as far as trying to hit the shots that's called for on the golf course, he's doing it, and he's doing it without fear. He's just making the shot. Not always pulling it off, but he's attempting it. And that's what Tiger does. He hits the shot that's called for. You start at the middle of the green and you work it off of that, whether it be right or left or whatever. You keep it out of trouble, and then you work with your putter and your short game around the green. So I really like the way JT is playing. I really feel like what he's been doing the last few months has been setting himself up to have a really great Masters, guys.
What you thinking?
I completely agree with Fred. I think Justin Thomas is on the brink of something special. I think he's going to achieve something meaningful this season, and it might very well be at the Masters. His game just ticks so many boxes around here. We talk about the iron play. Obviously, he's one of the best around. But I think crucially too, it's also the ability to manipulate shots and the ball flight. I remember watching the Players' Championship a few weeks ago when the weather was a bit iffy. Some of the shots he was hitting, you thought, yeah, that's proper golf. That's not a guy that stands on a range and just hits balls and plays trackman golf. This is a guy that can actually play the game. He has vision, he has feel, he can create shots, and that is what Augusta National has always asked. And I think that's why it continues to endure as a golf course and as an event where it's still at its core gets back to what the game should be about, which is creativity and imagination and the ability to pull off those shots. And Justin Thomas, I think, is one of the very best players in the world today to do that. And Fred mentioned Tiger's influence there. I think Tiger's a great influence on Justin, not just in terms of his game, but I think also that mentality. You're rubbing shoulders with arguably the best player of all time. You have to be able to take some snippets from that mentality that he has. How did he approach these big events? How did he deal with scenarios and rounds and the expectation and the pressure? And I'm pretty sure that they've had many conversations around that over the years. And I must have, I'm sure he's like a sponge and he's just taking it all in and just, ingesting it. So I think he's on the verge of something very special. I think I actually tipped him to win this last year and he let me down. Unforgivable. But I think he's on the verge of something very special. And I would not, I know, it wouldn't surprise me though, if he puts on that green jacket on Sunday. I think he's, spoiler alert to Justin Thomas is absolutely among my picks to win this week. And it could be his time.
I'm just gonna go out on a run before we go to the picks, and I'm gonna say he's my pick to win before anybody else. But I'll explain why later.
Oh man, we
And-
can't all agree. That never happens.
No, he's my pick by far to win this year. But anyway, let's go to what everybody's expecting, the picks. Okay, but before we do that, it's worth mentioning. The weather's gonna play some importance here because the weather right now where I am in Texas. Plano, Texas, just north of Dallas. We are under a tornado watch. What the heck is
Again tonight? You're under a tornado watch again?
We're in Tornado Alley, right? But anyway,
man.
that means that same band of storms, thunderstorms. There's a possibility of strong thunderstorms, right, in a few hours. Nearly an inch of rainfall, damaging winds, large hail, and a tornado or two are not out of the question in a couple of hours here. That's the same thing that is expected tomorrow in Atlanta, in Augusta, Georgia. And Wednesday is going to be raining. They expect a few 10 to 20% chance on Thursday. So the course is going to take all that rainfall leading up to a better weather pattern through the weekend, but it could impact those first couple of rounds. So given that into consideration, let's start with our picks and which international players, and I'm going to give you this one first, Kieran, you think would be your picks to win in the Masters?
Well, I'm just going to pick one for this scenario, and it's Cameron Smith, the Players' Champion. We last saw him win there at Sawgrass. I think if you can win an event of that magnitude, which isn't officially a major, but it's pretty much as good as one, and arguably, well, it's certainly a far stronger field than what we see at Augusta National. So if you can beat that field at Sawgrass, then you can absolutely win the Masters. And we've seen him play very well at Augusta before. He's the only man ever to shoot all 4 rounds in the 60s in the same Masters. He did that in the November 2020 Masters. Obviously, a very different Augusta National that week, but still great memories to have. He finished 10th last year. Again, obviously a little bit cold, hasn't played since Sawgrass. But I like Cameron Smith. I think he's a fabulous player, and the putting is just unbelievable. If he can recapture what he did at Sawgrass, then he will absolutely contend here because he was holing putts from everywhere. He will make so many birdies around this golf course, and that makes him such a dangerous player. Australia had to wait a long, long time to get their Masters champion with Adam Scott 9 years ago. And I think Cameron Smith is a prime candidate. If it's not going to be Justin Thomas to win the Masters, I think Cameron Smith is going to be right there behind them. So I think he's a fabulous player. I've enjoyed watching him for years. And I think we're now seeing the potential he's always had coming to fruition. Cameron Smith, guys, he's now a big-time player. He's a Players' Champion. And you know what? He might even be a Masters champion this time next week.
Should have said it first, but go ahead. Who are you going to?
Cameron Smith, good pick, but I got two. A guy we haven't talked about, John Rahm, former number one in the world, and I fully expect that after this week, John Rahm will be number one in the world again because I think I got him top 5 for sure. I think this tournament is set up for him. He hits that big high fade. He does well here. And I expect to see him win this week. I be very good. And I think Rory, I think it's time for Rory to come back and make his name known and become a contender at the Masters. So John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, my 2 international guys.
All right. So I was gonna pick first Cameron Smith. Has already won 2 of the biggest events. With that narrow victory at a Tournament of Champions and that more resounding one of the Players just a month ago. So I think he can just add the Masters this year and maybe be the Player of the Year if he does that. Who knows? He's playing that well. I also like a lot, and this is one of my dark horses, and that's a preview on that one, Cory Connors. I think he can do very well. He's been just knocking on that door for so long, and he plays well, and he has the skill set that he can win here.
He's not an international player. He's from Ohio. He played at Kent State.
It's Canadian. But anyway, and the other one, and yeah, I'm not going with John Ram. I'm going with it's another dark horse. I'm gonna give it there, Matt Fitzpatrick. I've been just going with him for him riding him, and I think he's just also just like Cory Connors, just about to be and doing a peak there, and this could be it. This could be the one for him to win. So talking about dark horses, Fred, who are your picks as the dark horses for here?
Yeah, I'm just going to answer one thing that you just said. If it's wet and the golf course playing really long, I don't think Matt Fitzpatrick has the horsepower to play Augusta National if it's real wet and be a winner. If it dries off, yeah, but if it's real wet, I don't think so. Dark horses, you know, a guy that I really like and I think should do better in majors, and he's been playing pretty decent, Billy Horschel. He's been playing very well this season. He's due to win some kind of a major. It could be this week. But I could also make a case for Sam Burns. And then you know, I don't know if you can call him a dark horse. Number one, you know, he's number one, Scotty Schaffler. We already talked about him, so I don't know if you can really call him a dark horse. And
dark horse, number one in the world. Dark horse.
I know.
Just because nobody would recognize him if he walks in front of you.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean he's a dark horse. He's the world's number one player.
All right.
Oh, Fred, I'm not giving you that one. You can't have Scotty Schaffler as dark horse.
I threw it in there.
Come on.
I tried to sneak it through there, guys. I can't fool you guys. Two other names I'm just going to throw out there real quick. Joaquin Niemann, Tony Finau. Tony Finau, we just haven't heard anything about, but he's had some really good success at Augusta National in the past. He hits it a long ways. I don't know that he can win, but he could have a good week. And Joaquin Niemann, man, he's been playing really, really well.
How about you, Kieran, your dark horses?
Well, unlike Fred, I've actually got a criteria for my category, what actually qualifies as a dark horse in the Masters. And I've only looked at people outside the world's top 25. And I'm taking this seriously. So true dark horses at the Masters. I've got Gary Woodland, former US Open champion, played some very decent stuff of late. A few top 10s in there, I think 3 top 10s in the past couple of months. Playing decently. Certainly has the length. Has obviously won the US Open, has experience there. Could he play well here? I think he will. Cory Connors, you mentioned him, Carlos. I agree. You know, fantastic player, great skill set. Seems to have this knack of playing well on tough golf courses, and I think that will bode well this week. And could maybe just follow in the footsteps of Mike Weir and win one for Canada. I also think Shane Lowry should do really well around here. I've always thought that he has enough length and he has great imagination and creativity, a wonderful short game. There's no reason why he can't play well at Augusta, and I think he will play well this week. Adam Scott may have his best run here in a few years. I can see that happening too. I think he's hitting the ball really well. I think he's talking a good game, and he's still young enough where he could still be a real contender around here. And I also have to say, I'm not just saying it because of who he is, but Robert Mcintyre. He was 12th last year on his debut. I think he's a big time player. I think he enjoyed the golf course last year. He will benefit from that experience. I'm not saying he's going to win the Masters, but I think he could potentially emulate that top 12 finish from last year, and that would secure an invitation for next year's Masters as well. So those are my kind of dark horses. Sam Burns, I think can't really call him a dark horse, only in the respect of he is making his debut, and we all know the history of that. Rookies don't win at Augusta. Will Zalatoris came close last year. Sam Burns, though, 3-time PGA Tour winner. That's better than most rookies. Certainly a potential there. But no, I think Gary Woodland is actually quietly an interesting outside bet, and I think he'll play well this week. And it could be the second coming of him, because he hasn't really pushed on since he won that US Open. But as I say, he has been playing quite well of late, so he'd be top of my list for dark horses. So I think my dark horses, Carlos, qualify as dark horses more than Fred just picking all the top 10 players in the world there, I think.
Yeah, that was just too easy, man.
Just one. Just one.
Just one, yeah, just one. Anyway, I already mentioned Cory Connors. Definitely, that's my top dark horse. Matthew Fitzpatrick. Another player that I'm going to pick is the winner from the Genesis Invitational, Max Homa. I think he's been playing really well, and even though he missed the cut last year, I would say that's normal for the first timers. And he's been playing really, really well. And I think he has what it takes to win here. Of course, it's a dark horse, so don't take it like, hey, he's just going to go out and win. But I think he's going to do pretty well. Another player that I think we've been waiting to see if he's going to do it back again. So former champion here, Bubba Watson, right now. If he's on and he knows how to play here, he's a two-time champion. So he knows how to play in Augusta. And finally, I would say the player that finished second last year, Will Torres. He's been playing really, really well. That's another player that you have to look out for. Now to close it up, let's see our top picks to win. Kieran, what are your top picks to win this year?
Well, we talked about him earlier. I'll get straight to it. Justin Thomas is top of that list for me. Well, joint top of that list. I think there's 3 guys here that stand out. So Justin Thomas, I think, ticks all the boxes, ready for a big time win again. It could be at Augusta. Likewise, Cameron Smith obviously won the Players' Championship. He's on the verge now of being he is now one of the truly elite players in the game. A win here would further validate that process. I think obviously the question is that 4 weeks off, is he cold? Where's his game? Where's his form? I think he'll play well. He can certainly win here again. And I agree with Fred from earlier. I think John Ram, who has just lost that world #1 position. The amazing thing is, John Ram, we look at the past couple of years, has that one US Open win, and that's about it, really. He's obviously played some fantastic golf, but hasn't always converted it into as many wins as he probably should have done. So that guy, that suggests to me that he's certainly due one, and it might very well be here. He has a great record at Augusta, consistent top 5 finisher. Has all the tools, that hits the ball so far, amazing short game, can hit, has a fantastic game, just fabulous player. His temperaments get better through the years, but I also think he has that fire, and he embraces that, and he uses it well too. So I think John Ram is definitely a contender here to join the great Spanish history at Augusta National. So for me, Carlos, is going to be Ram, Thomas, and Smith. Those are my top 3. And just a question for you guys, and I can't believe I've avoided it so far, but assuming, as we all expect, Tiger does actually play, where's he going to finish?
Let's leave that one as the last question.
Okay,
Fred,
okay.
Let's see what you think about your favorites.
My top 3 guys are Justin Thomas, Collin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele. No surprise there. Collin Morikawa is my guy. I ride him. His game is perfect for this place, whether it's wet or whatever. The only issues he has is a putting once in a while, but he's been putting much, much better. So I think he can do well here. Xander Schauffele is due to win one of these things, and it could very well be this week. The guy we haven't talked about, who seems to be back and healthy and playing at a high level again, is Koepka. Where's he gonna end up? We haven't talked about him at all. He could be a factor come Sunday.
See, that's my second player. So JT, I said it. JT, I think there's a reason why he's been playing so much with Tiger. I think Tiger sees a lot of him as well there from JT. I think he's just this is him. This is his tournament to lose. Brooks Koepka last year, he was just dragging his leg around. He's healthy now, and he's had some top 20, top 11 finishes in last 4 outings. So he definitely has some momentum this year, contrary to that. And we all know what a major means to Brooks Koepka. Cameron Smith was the other one that I was going to mention, and Jordan Spieth was going to be my 4th player to check in to see which are my 4 horsemen to win at the Masters. So Fred, I'm going to give you first to close it up. What about Tiger Woods? If he plays, where do you think he finishes?
Guys, for me, I really don't care. If he makes the cut, if he indeed tees it up, plays both days and makes the cut, that would be so far beyond anything that I could imagine. It really doesn't matter. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter to every golf fan that's out there. If Tiger's teeing it up and in the field, they just want to see him play. Whether he wins or finishes, ends up, 60th or whatever, just at the bottom of the field of the cuts, everybody will be happy. So it really doesn't matter. But I do know this. We all know this for a fact. If Tiger's teeing it up, in his mind, there's a chance he can win. And Tiger, when he plays badly, it's T5. I mean, it's top 5, right? So you got to expect him to be in the top 10 at least if he makes the cut and if he can get it up and down the hills.
Kieran, what do you think?
Just quickly, I must say, Brooks Koepka can't win the Masters because we cannot have a fake blonde wearing the green jacket. That cannot happen. That is against the laws of the universe. That would be unacceptable. Could you imagine them there in Butler cabin with a blonde? Oh no.
Maybe Fred Ridley will have a chat with him.
Yeah,
He'll take it off on Sunday night. I mean, Saturday night. He'll take it off. We'll see.
Well, you never know. Some people have in the past have obviously tried to wear appropriate colours to go with the green jacket. Maybe he'll change his hair colour on Saturday night if he has a chance of winning. But no, on Tiger, I agree with Fred. I think the fact that Tiger's even here in this conversation on the grounds of Augusta National, playing, enjoying himself, I think that's just extraordinary and fabulous. And that's defied all expectations that we could have ever imagined. But Tiger Woods has obviously a unique affinity with this golf course. He absolutely, I think, if he can, he definitely makes the cut. I think that I have no doubt about that. The question is about stamina and can he play the extra 2 rounds Saturday, Sunday, and can he play to a high level there? It's too much of a leap to imagine them winning or even contending from that position from where he's been. But I think he plays very respectably, and I think could it be a top 20, top 25 finish? I think that's very achievable, but I absolutely am convinced that he will play all 4 rounds. He's never missed a cut here as a professional. The one time missed a cut was back in '96 as an amateur. 25 years of playing in the Masters, really, never missed a cut. And you know what? I don't think he will this week either. I think he's going to be here playing all 4 rounds, and I think it's going to be an amazing story, and it'll light up the Masters, and he won't necessarily be the winner, but it'll be a massive story. And for me, it sets up later on this year, Tiger Woods winning the Open at St Andrews, 150th Open, and that would be the greatest sporting story ever told. And I think the journey to that starts this week.
I think if he plays, he makes the cut. I agree with you guys. But one thing that I have been thinking about is the last time when he won, he really didn't win it. It was the Tiger effect again. All the players were just, oh my God, Tiger's here. I don't know what to do. And he just didn't lose it. So he knows how to play when it counts. And he could do the same thing one more time. If he's contending on Sunday on that back 9, put all your money in him, because everybody else is going to be like, I mean, it's going to be the Tiger wall behind him, and all the pressure and everybody else is just going to be the same thing. I think he would win. If he's contending there on Sunday, I think he wins, but we'll see. It's just wishful thinking. Hopefully we can see him. At least it's incredible that we're talking about him playing. Mm-hmm. Hopefully he does. He makes the cut. We can see him win. I mean, we can see him win would be incredible, but at least we can see him play all 4 rounds. Final thoughts, Kieran, before we close.
Well, it's always an enjoyable time to spend with you two guys, and I think hopefully, bottom line is, the Masters is always a highlight of the year, and I always root for the best stories and just having a great leaderboard and a great finish. I think we want to see that. I think the weather, it'll be obviously iffy in the practice rounds, but I think during the actual tournament, the weather progressively will get better. So by the weekend, it'll be sunshine, glorious, lovely, some good scoring conditions, I'm sure. And hopefully we get leaderboard and some of these players that we've talked about tonight in contention, because if any of those guys win Masters, they'll be a deserving champion and a great story. Obviously, it is kind of the beginning of the golf season. We're into this now accelerated major schedule. And I think the Masters is hopefully we get Tiger playing and playing well. We get all these great players, showing what they can do, and just hopefully we get an exciting finish. That's the least we can all ask for. And if we get that, then we'll have had yet another memorable Masters tournament. And as I say, it's always a highlight of the year, as it's been spent the evening with you two tonight. And hopefully we get the Masters that we all deserve.
Fred, I think the final closing thoughts.
It was just 4 months ago, that Tiger was in the Bahamas at the Hero World Challenge. And he says, guys, I'm just happy to be walking. He said, there was a time when they were talking about taking my leg off. I'm just happy I've got a leg and I'm still walking. 4 months later, we're looking at him. I mean, he drug his leg around for the PNC, to play with Charlie. And now we're looking at him to play in a major championship on Augusta National, one of the hardest walks in golf. And plus, it's the Masters. It doesn't get any better. We got Tiger back, and we've got Augusta National and the Masters. It just doesn't get any better. It's fantastic. We're going to have Tom Watson joining Nicklaus and Player as the honorary starters on Thursday morning. I loved watching the Augusta National Women's Amateur last Saturday. Loved watching Drive, Chip, and Putt on Sunday. It's a magical place. Kudos to Augusta National for everything they're doing for amateur golf, for women's golf, not only here in the United States, but internationally. It's a wonderful place, guys. And I can't wait to watch it. I'll start watching it right away Thursday morning.
Definitely. I'll be glued watching as much as I can, because this is, and even like any other, the Masters. So anyway, hope you enjoy it. It's going to be great. One of the most expected Masters, at least until today, because everybody's trying to see if Tiger's going to be playing. But as usual, it's just a major that everybody's waiting for. Thank you for joining us. It's always our pleasure to bring you the latest in the golf world news and information. Subscribe to our channel. On the bio right down there is the link so you can subscribe. So thank you for joining us and enjoy the Masters.